I am thrilled to have the Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost on with us. He served as the auditor of Ohio for a long time, like 8 years, and then he became Attorney General. I think he won with more votes than anybody else in the history of Ohio has, and he is defending and fighting for something called Clearview. Now, I like Dave, but I am against Clearview, and maybe he knows something that I don't know. So I want to have a conversation with him about what is happening in Ohio and what's being heard now in the courts. Dave, welcome to the program.
It's good to hear your voice.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. By the way, thanks for everything that you've done. You're really making a difference.
You're very kind. Thank you.
Talk to me about the case now of Clearview, which is an AI facial recognition, and it is a great tool for law enforcement, but it frightens me a great deal. Talk to me about the case.
Sure. So let's start with the facts of the crime. A fella's walking down the street, minding his own business, and mind you, this guy's got no criminal background. I mean, he's a good guy, pays his taxes, goes to work. He's walking down the street on February 14th, Valentine's Day, Day of Love, and the bad guy, I'm not going to use his name, comes up behind him, robs him on the street, shoots him twice in the back, and runs off. Now, some surveillance cameras see him that are just on the street, see him going into a particular apartment. Well, fast forward a week, police are doing their investigation, trying to figure out what happened, and he goes to a convenience store, and the surveillance camera there over the cash register picks up his face, and he goes back same kind of route to the same apartment. And so they go, wonder who lives there. And they run the probation website or the parole website from the Department of Corrections. Lo and behold, there's a felon there. Then they run that guy against the, they grab a facial freeze frame off of the convenience store footage and run it through Clearview AI, and it's a match. So they say, aha, they go in and get a search warrant from the judge. During the search, they come up with the gun, the murder weapon, and so they arrest the guy. They've got a pretty good case at that point. That guy goes to court and complains and says, hey, that facial recognition stuff is not reliable. They say right on there that you can't rely on it and don't use it in court. And the judge tosses the results of the search, which means this guy's going to walk if we don't have the murder weapon or evidence.
And he tosses that because the Clearview evidence is what got you the warrant. So anything is fruit of a poison tree, correct?
Well, that's what the argument is.
Right.
But the law says that there's a long-standing, decades-long good faith exception, and you're only supposed to use the fruit of the poisonous tree if there is if there's bad faith and there's no other option to do it. There was no bad faith here, and in fact, there's other useful evidence, probative evidence, including seeing the guy going into that apartment that is useful and supporting the probable cause for the search warrant.
It also reminds me a little bit of if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. The use of DNA evidence during O.J. Simpson. Everybody said the same thing. That's unreliable. We don't even know what that is. It could be, 1 out of every 100 have the same kind of DNA. They made all kinds of crazy things. And so that was tossed out because people didn't understand how accurate that was. So I don't disagree with you at all. This is a great thing to get the bad guys. However, Clearview, what they have done is they have scraped billions of images without anybody's consent off of the internet. And I believe it is very, very accurate. And the argument would be, well, I'm not doing anything bad or wrong, so I don't have to worry about it. But I don't, in a time where we're headed towards AI the way we are and what's happening in China This is exactly the kind of technology that is used for governments to track everybody. How do you balance that the crazy world that we live in to make sure it doesn't become a tool like China?
Well, Glenn, I worry about that too. And I think that the solution is the regulation of the use of the thing. For example, we do not permit here in Ohio the use of facial recognition without any more to support an arrest warrant. It can only be used as a lead. Then you have to go out and do the shoe leather to actually prove that the guy you think it is actually is the guy you're looking for.
Which is what you did, right? You used that, and you didn't arrest him because we had the AI. You arrested him because you had that, got you a warrant, you got in, you found the gun, right?
Yeah, well, it was a search warrant that got suppressed.
Yeah, right. But what I mean is that what you're saying you want it to be used like is exactly what you did. You didn't go get the guy because he was on Clearview.
Exactly right. And I think that here's the rubric. I know that you're a fact guy, but you love how do we think about this? We have public spaces everywhere. So a cop can stand on the corner and observe all day long. I mean, they can sit there for an 8-hour shift and just watch. And anything he sees is fair game. They're allowed to react right there. And that's not improper surveillance because it's a public place. When does it stop becoming a public place or a proper? When it becomes a private place. If it's your home, if it's in some circumstances your business, you've got to have probable cause and get a judge to sign off on that. I think when we're talking about these technological things, the question is, what is the government allowed to do with it? And and did it occur in public or in private? When we're talking about Facebook, I'm sorry, it's electronic, but that's kind of a public place. That's more like the cop standing on the street corner. On the other hand, a cop standing outside, and we just had a Supreme Court case about this a couple of years ago, a cop standing on the street but using sensitive ultraviolet thermal imaging to look for marijuana grows. They're looking at what's going on inside your private residence.
Yeah, they are.
That's a Fourth Amendment violation. So I think that this principle of public versus private spheres goes a long way to helping us think through this.
So, Dave, I want you to know, I mean, I hope this hasn't felt like a hostile interview, but I want you to know that I'm a fan of yours, but I am very, very concerned of this slippery, almost straight down slope to the cage that AI could build for people. And we can have all of the best intentions, but it falls into the wrong hands. We have, we lose several elections in a row, and it could be, it'll be a prison. It'll be a panopticon, like it is in China. And so that's why I'm concerned about it. So this is in front of the Supreme Court. Closing arguments haven't happened yet.
Nope.
How do you think the court's going to look at this, and what do you think is going to happen?
Well, it's a case of first impression, right? I mean, we haven't had a lot of cases challenging the intersection of the Fourth Amendment protecting our privacy in our homes and papers and this new technology. So we're arguing for a narrow reading of it, but that it should be possible, that it should be an available tool. To your point earlier, I couldn't agree with you more. It scares me what the government can do about this. If you think about back to the Biden administration and social media and what they were doing, you multiply that, make that geometrically larger, and that's the potential. We've got to be vigilant.
What is the difference between this and, like, for instance, in Texas, you can't clock me speeding with a camera. A cop has to be there to stop me. And even though they can take a picture of me driving the car, et cetera, they cannot ticket me for speeding. It has to be a physical police officer. What is the difference between this, do you think?
Well, and that's the same law we have in Ohio. And that's a great example of how the government can restrain technology to prevent it from going too far. That's not a constitutional issue. That's a statute that the General Assembly passed and said, we're not going to let you do this. You've got the technology. We're not going to let you do it. That's just too far.
Okay. Dave, I mean, I appreciate that at least you and others are thinking deeply about this, because we're on the verge of a whole brave new world. And I honestly don't know what the right answer is. I mean, the law-abiding citizen in me is like, the guy clearly, you got the gun in his house. He clearly did it. But the person that is concerned about this new technology and things like China, I just don't know how to balance it yet. But I appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet. That's Dave Yost. He's the Ohio Attorney General, and that is happening in Ohio right now.